What's up YouTube? Today we're back again with another Rainbow Six Siege guide video, but this time I'm here to present you the top 5 most underrated defenders in Rainbow Six Siege. Now previously I did a video on the top 5 most underrated attackers in Siege, card on the top right, and I realized that there's actually a decent amount of underrated defenders in Rainbow Six Siege. So that's why I'm here to make this video. And if you guys are looking for a main for defending, then I have the perfect list for you. Because not a lot of people use these operators, but they're still good. Now before I start the video, I ask of you guys to subscribe to support the channel. And while you're at it, you might as well like the video. I'm almost at 1,000 subs, and I'll greatly appreciate it. And although these are going to be controversial takes that some of you guys might not agree on, which I'll allow you guys to argue down in the comments down below if you guys don't agree on some of my placements, or if you have suggestions, like how you change the list. But I am a Diamond 2 myself, 1.4 KD, so I think that I'm fit to give you guys this list, if you guys are struggling in lower ranks. But yeah, let's go. Alright guys, for our number 5th place, we have Frost. Now Frost is a really good operator. The only reason why she's so low on this list is because she's kind of underrated. I don't see a lot of Frost mains, but there's definitely a significant amount. So she's really good, but she's between well rated and underrated. So a little bit less than well rated, I feel like, in my opinion. But the reason for this is because she has her gun's not the best, to be honest. It does kind of sell my shit, but it has a low fire rate and 40 damage with extended barrel. But it does have low recoil, high ammo, and it also has an ACOG, so you're probably going to want to be taking long-range gunfights with that extended barrel on ACOG. And then she also has a secondary shotgun. This is really good for making head holes, feet holes, and it rotates anything. And then for her gadgets, you have deployable shield and bulletproof camera. Both of them work really good with her frost mats, which I'll get into in a bit, but you can pick either one, whichever one you prefer. But yeah, so now for actually the welcome mat itself, she gets 3 of these, and basically when an attacker hits one of these, they get knocked, in which they could pull out the frost mat, but then they'll be on 20 HP and have a slowing effect, which is really good. And you would be surprised about the amount of people that hit frost mats. Now, how I suggest you guys to use these welcome mats is either place them on under windows, place them on top of stairs, or place them in corners that the attackers like to walk in and aren't really paying attention to the floor. And that will give you the best advantage in letting your frost mats hit. But yeah, that's a little about Frost here. She's definitely good in bringing to the team. You could use her Frost mats with the deployable shield and bulletproof. Like you could get a Frost mat under the bulletproof to like bait out the attackers to walk up to in melee and they get hit by the Frost mat, and like a couple places where you could hide it. Or if you want, you could bring the deployable shield where you could place the Frost mat under the deployable shield so that when they hop in, they hit it. But yeah. Frost overall, really good operator. Not too underrated, but you could probably get away with playing her a bit and if you want to main her. Now, in 4th place, and this one's going to be controversial, but we have Clash. Now, you might be asking, Lime, why the heck is Clash on number 4? Well, Clash does something for the team that no other operator can. She has a riot shield. But before I get into that, I'm going to look at her loadout real quick. She obviously has her shield. She has the SMG, which is actually a really strong gun. Definitely underrated in my opinion. Easy to control recoil, high damage, high fire rate. And you'll definitely get some kills out of it. And then she also brings 3 of the most best gadgets in the game. She brings impact grenades, which is always good for rotates, getting out of places such and such. You got barbed wire, which did get buffed this season so that attackers take damage in barbed wire. And then you also have the deployable shield, which is always good to bring if you want to cover hallways and help the team out. But yeah, what makes Clash really good is her electrifying capabilities, in which she has a shield where if you pull it out and you use your ability, you can stun the enemy. You can stun the enemies, which is really good for stalling time, and she's also really annoying to deal with. So, sir, you're probably going to want to use her in certain sites, like I would say something like Oregon Basement, where like the attacker, there's like a common point of entry that goes straight into sight. And just use Clash to stall those attackers. You could definitely waste a lot of time, and you're basically unkillable if you know how to play Clash correctly. As long as you back up when the attackers come, keep your distance, and don't play too dumb, and you basically do your job correctly. But yeah, she's also really good for intel. I mean, if you have like a duo that you play with, just go clash, tell your duo to stay behind you. You give them the info, you ping them such and such, and then your teammate could just pre-fire them, shit on them, and they're just gonna be distracted on a clash, because you would be surprised about the amount of people who don't have the game sense to deal with the clash. They'll just think that the clash is like an active enemy and that they have to deal with clash, and they won't be focused about other people around them. Just, I would say, be careful if they bring EMPs, and try to use clash sparingly. I wouldn't use clash all the time, because there's definitely a considerable amount of counters to clash. So if you go clash all the time, then you might just get killed. Pointlessly without wasting their time. Alright guys, now number third, which a lot of people probably expected, is Maestro. Now Maestro has a LMG, which is actually crazy for defense. It has an 80 mag, high fire rate, 35 damage, and low recoil. I mean, this thing is really good. You could just pre-fire a whole lot of stuff, and you'll basically never have to reload. And also, if you prefer the ACOG, obviously, you could use the shotgun. This is also a good choice, but I would say be careful, because it does have a low fire rate, so it might catch you off guard. But yeah, you also have a bailiff, which is really good for making head holes. It's basically like a shotgun, rotates, such and such. And then you have barbed wire, impact grenades, and conversation blockers. I already explained why barbed wire and impact grenades are good. Rotates, traps. Conversation blockers, they're kind of mid. I would probably never bring them. Unless you already have a lot of impacts and barbed wire on your team, then I guess you could bring conversation blockers to like block drone holes and important points. But yeah, and then Maestro's evil eyes. He recently got a buff. I think it was like 4 seasons ago, or 3. But he now has 3 evil eyes, which is basically the same amount as Valkyrie's. But his cams are bulletproof, and you can shoot lasers out of it, which is really strong for gathering intel. Now, there's 2 ways to use Maestro. Either you can use Maestro's evil eyes, and place them in sight so that they're just cameras for in sight. They could get as much information, and it's going to be basically impossible for the attackers to break, because you either have to go up and melee it or explode it. But since it's in sight, you're not going to want to do that, because there could be defenders anywhere that could kill you if you try doing that. Or you could place Maestros in hidden spots, because notice how it does shoot lasers out. So if you place your Maestro in a hidden spot and the attackers pass by it, then you can use your lasers to either attack the attackers, break their utility. Like, it's really good for getting breach. You can, like, say if you hide a Maestro behind breach, and then the thermite tries to thermite the breach, you could just use your lasers to break the breach, and that's already 1 thermite charge down for the exchange of 1 Maestro cam, which is really strong. And Maestro's also really good for denying plant if you're placing it in sight. It could see through smoke grenades, I believe. And you can use the Maestro cam to like dodge melee attacks. If you're like looking away from the attackers, then they can't melee your cam. And even if they do melee your cam and the glass breaks, you can always open it, and then that glass won't be broken, so you would still have your Maestro cam. So Maestro overall is a really strong operator, definitely underrated. The only problem I would say with Maestro is that he is at 3 health, so he's kind of clunky, he is kind of slow. But if you're going to play Maestro, you probably want to stay alive so that you can use your cameras. Alright guys, for our number 2 spot, we have Aruni. Now, for some reason, I mean, I feel like everybody knows Aruni's a good operator, but I don't really see a lot of Aruni being played, if I'm being honest. In console, definitely. Probably PC, more people are playing Aruni, but I definitely think that she's notable for the position of number 2 of the most underrated defenders. She brings P10 Roni, which isn't the best right now. I mean, it might get a buff in the future, because the gun is pretty shit, because it only has a 15 mag. But I would suggest using a DMR. I mean, this thing shreds. It does 60 damage. And if you have a really good trigger finger, then I mean, it's game over for the attackers. It also has an ACOG, which is like beautiful. And she's actually one of 2 of the only defenders that has a DMR, so she's definitely good. And while you're using the DMR, I mean, unless you're like a headshot machine, I would suggest aiming at body level, because DMRs already do a lot of damage. There's no reason to go for headshots. I would say the only time you're going for head level with the DMR is if you know that the attacker is a 3 armor, because you don't want to 3-shot with the DMR. It would be better just to go for the head. But yeah, she also has this pistol, which I actually kind of like this pistol. I use it quite a bit. And then she also has barbed wire and bulletproof camera. Both are really strong for intel. But yeah, now for her Surya gates. And she gets 3 of these, and they're pretty strong. You can put them on doors, you can put them on walls, you can put them on windows. And they basically make it so that the attackers can't enter unless they burn their Aruni gates. So it's really good for burning utility. If attackers do decide to go through them, then they take 30 damage. And also it makes a loud ass noise. So attackers are more interested in probably burning it rather than hopping in. But yeah. She's really good if you want to like protect your utility. Like say if you want to protect a bulletproof camera, you could like put a Aruni gate on it, and then they can't get the bulletproof camera like a ash charge or like a Flores drone. They have to burn it first in order to get through the utility. And she's also good if you just want to place that bad boy down, and then it'll alert when the attackers are there once our Aruni gate is broken. And trust me, they're probably some of the loudest things in the game, so you definitely hear that shit from across the map. But yeah, overall, really good operator, underutilized, and if you want to main her, then go right ahead. Alright guys, now for my number 1 spot, and yes, this might seem as a surprise, we have Thorn. And you can probably already see why I'm advocating for Thorn here. I do have her elite skin, I'm a little bit biased, but trust me guys, Thorn is good and underrated. Now you guys tell me, when was the last time you seen a Thorn in your game? I mean, maybe you're friends with a Thorn main. Highly unlikely though. Thorn is one of the most, or the most underrated defender. I mean, let me just go over her stats. She has this SMG here. It's alright. It's like mediocre. It does 40 damage, 700 fire rate. Not too much ammo, but I would say it's definitely good. You want to rock the extended barrel on that boy. But yeah, our SMG is alright. It's definitely reliable. And if you want to run the shotgun, then that's also a good choice. Because as your secondary, you have the C75 auto. And this machine pistol absolutely shreds in close range. It doesn't have a scope, but it's still a pretty good gun. So her guns are pretty decent, and then her gadgets are really good. She has a deployable shield, which is always good to bring for the team, and then barbed wire, which is also good for intel. But what makes Thorn shine out to me is her Razor Bloom shell. Now, she gets 3 of these Razor Bloom shells, and they basically are delayed explosion. Like once an attacker passes by them, it takes some time, and then it goes off, and then it takes more time, and then it has the potential to kill an attacker, which is not common among most of the trap operators, which sets her out. Now the Thorn trap definitely is overhated in my opinion, because not a lot of people realize the amount of tech that you could do with Thorn's Thorn trap. And if you look at her specialties, it says Trapper and Anti-Entry. Now, what I see a lot of people using, when they use Thorn, they're using her the wrong way. I see people using Thorn to get intel, and while, yeah, she could do that, she's not an intel operator, according to Rainbow Six Siege, and in my opinion, you shouldn't be playing her for intel, because her Thorn traps do take a lot of time to go off, so by the time they go off, the intel might be a little bit faulty. But instead, what you should do is place it in places where attackers enter, and it's like kind of close, like it's kind of a compact room, and then you could use the kill potential of a Thorn trap in order to actually kill the attackers. Now, what I might mean about this, let me give an example. Now, say if you're in Oregon 2nd floor, in closet, so the room next to master bedroom, a lot of times what the attackers will do, they could bring an ace or thermite. Regardless, let's just say if they bring an ace, let's say they open breach in that room, but you put a Thorn trap so that once they go in that room, and it's really small, by the way, closet, so you could put probably like 2 Thorn traps in that room. You put 2 Thorn traps in that room, they both go off, and the ace, since it's a delayed explosion, the ace, while the ace is putting down the ace charge, while the ace is like peeking the breach, if they destroy the breach from like far away from like balcony, they're not gonna have time to react to Thorn traps going off, so they're just gonna die most of the time. And it's usually not droned if you're putting in small rooms, because when they're droning, they're just gonna check, is the room empty or is the room or is there someone in the room, and they're not actually going to drone out for the traps. Especially if you're actually good at hiding thorn traps. And another way that you can use Thorn is that if you want to play off your Thorn traps, you can put one like you can like put it somewhere in the open, like the attacker still can't see it, but it like activates in the middle of the room, so that either when it goes off, either the attackers retreat back and you can reclaim the space that they took, or they go forward, in which when you hear the Thorn trap go off, you could just start pre-firing, so that if they start running, they're going to run into your pre-fire and die. And if they just stay where they are, if they don't run back or move forward, then they're just going to die by the Thorn trap. So yeah, that's another easy way to get a kill with Thorn. And the one last easy way to get a kill with Thorn is that you can use her Thorn traps to deny plant. Now remember, I told you guys that Thorn's razor blooms don't go off immediately. There's like a 1 or 2 second delay. And while a lot of people might think this is bad, it's really good for denying plant, because say if they like took over site and then they go to the default plant, but then you have a thorn trap there, they're planting the bomb and then the thorn trap goes off. Now in the worst case scenario, they move away from the thorn trap, they get off the fuse, which burns time, and then walks away from the thorn trap, waits for it to explode, and then start planting again, which still is good because you denied that time for them to plant. Or they don't have enough time to react to the thorn trap and they die by it, which is another free kill, and you're denying the plant. So overall, Thorn is really good for denying stuff. She's also good for anti-entry. You just gotta use her the correct way. And you definitely want to pair thorn traps together because they work best like in clusters, so that attackers are like start to panic when 3 thorn traps go off. They don't know what to do, they die. So you definitely want to put thorn traps in combination with each other, and also, as I previously stated, you could play off them, or you could just leave them by themselves and set it as a trap for defenders across the map. But yeah, I'm done babbling about Thorn, my beautiful queen. But yeah. Alright guys, now that is the top 5 most underrated defenders. Now let me know what you guys think about this list in the comment section down below. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.